What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. Now, on Saturdays, I like to go back through the week of Newswave and see what everyone had to say based on the different topics that we talked about, and I pick out some of the comments to kind of respond and go over. And it's a lot of fun just to see what you guys come up with throughout the week. Seriously, reading through the comment section is usually a good time. And we're going to have a few things to go over today because, of course, the Switch Pro rumors were throughout the week. And then we had Capcom in their Street Fighter V nonsense with ads and everything. And then Smash Bros. Sales. So good times all the way around there. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, hit the like button. It does help out. There are going to be a bunch of videos going out over the weekend as well. Evan actually completed a monitor review for BenQ for a pretty cool looking 4K monitor he's going to talk about. We've got to look at the Nintendo Switch Blades, which is neat. And then that laptop from Walmart. So a lot of stuff going on right now. Today, though, we're going to start with some quick news, and I wanted to talk a bit about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. While it does kind of get brought up again later on in the show today, but we did have at least some comments from Reggie talking a bit about the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and how it all kind of came together. It mostly sounds like Marvel games or Marvel just kind of approached Nintendo and they all kind of came together, got Koei Tecmo involved and brought in Team Ninja to develop it. But it's something we've seen before with Marvel. Not really, Disney doesn't really want to make a game. They want to license out the characters and the likenesses, everything basically, out to a company that can develop, and Nintendo grabbed that. Whereas, of course, Sony kind of controls Spider-Man. It's a whole thing, but they also got parts of the Marvel Universe involved as well. So it's kind of like they're all grabbing different characters and likenesses and licenses to use. Microsoft, I think, needs to jump on that as well. It seems like Disney is more than happy to let any of these companies use Marvel as they go along. But one thing that was very interesting was that he was also asked by IGN about the first two, because people have asked, well, can Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 come over? And he said, I really can't comment on that. That's not been an area of focus for us. What we want to do is we want to make this game a great experience, and certainly with all of the excitement around the overall Marvel Universe, we think it's going to be a great opportunity. So unfortunately, yeah, he didn't really have much to say about that. You know, I would have liked, I'm sure a lot of people like myself would have liked him to say, yeah, collection's coming over too to get you guys ready. 3 is coming in 2019. They would have had to have announced the collection 1 and 2. But, I mean, it's been a while since those have been out, so it would have worked well. However, it seems like they're heavily focused on 3. So while Reggie may have been holding that one, you know, kind of to announce later, I don't know if there will be a collection. I wouldn't put money on it. I think they're full speed ahead on the third one. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. On Monday, we saw our first look at Smash Bros. Sales in the UK after it topped the charts and became the fastest selling title in the series. Nick says, Marvel Ultimate Alliance seems to be a major system seller in 2019. Multiple reactions online show me that many people that do not own a Switch yet are interested in this game. Plus, the possible promotion through the new film coming out from Marvel as well. This is going to drive sales like nuts. So I do think going into 2019, it was definitely a game none of us really expected to be there after, I mean, this was revealed to us, you know, in the first half of December. None of us really talking about this one, trying to figure out Nintendo's 2019, because of course everyone's talking about things like Animal Crossing, the actual, I guess, the quote-unquote hardcore mainline Pokemon title, possibly Metroid. There's, of course, new Super Mario Bros. There's a lot of games that are being pushed into 2019, and then we don't really know what else they're going to announce, possibly at, you know, a January Direct, E3, that could possibly release later on in the year. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I didn't even mention Daemon X Machina, and that's one of my most anticipated titles because it looks so different and interesting. And of course, the original Armored Core people are working on it, so that could be really neat. But yeah, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 came out of nowhere. We don't even know where it's going to be launching in 2019. It would be smart to launch it around the time of the second part for Infinity War. That would be cool. And that would probably help drive a lot of sales. But you're right, I think a lot of people saw that, got really excited, and then it said Switch exclusive, and they kind of stopped and said, oh, I guess I'll have to get a Switch. That could be a big-time third-party game that Nintendo is publishing, of course, and having Team Ninja do it, a good developer, by the way, put that out there. And yeah, it's probably going to drive a lot of Marvel fans to buying a Switch. And at that point, how do you capitalize on that? I mean, can they do more Marvel games? Maybe. Maybe this isn't the only Marvel Ultimate Alliance they'll do down the road, especially if this one sells well. The only thing, though, is the second one had a massive drop-off from the first one. I tried to get sales numbers together as best I could, but for the most part, it was mostly percentages. VG Charts has some estimations, whereas the first one was like 2.5 million on the 360. It dropped off like 80% for the second one. So we'll see. We'll see if just it being absent for so long makes people really want to jump into it. Tuesday, we saw more and more rumors pop up for the idea of a Switch revision, with titles such as Switch Pro being thrown around. These seem to start back up after SNK had an investors meeting showing the possibility of Samurai Spirits coming to Switch, giving more backing to a post found on Reddit mentioning Samurai Spirits for Switch and with a Switch Pro version. Gaming Hardcore says it's not Switch Pro, it's the new Nintendo Switch. So yeah, they could technically do new Nintendo Switch. I feel like they'll still want to call it Switch, obviously, no matter what revision is. Look, a revision's coming at some point for the Switch. We understand this. Wall Street Journal reported that it's looking like 2019. Based on the previous revision history with things like the DS and the Game Boy Advance, that actually lines up pretty well. That actually be longer than a longer time from initial launch to a revision that those ones had. So yeah. Sure, end of 2019, holiday 2019, somewhere in there, makes a lot of sense for the Switch. But the question really is, what do we call it? I mean, what will most of us probably won't be able to guess what Nintendo's going to call it, but what would you call it? Would you stick with new Nintendo Switch? Because it seems like they possibly could be rebranding the eShop even to distance itself from the past systems for Nintendo. It could be a new 3DS, sure. Could it be a Switch Pro? The only reason it'd be Switch Pro is if there was a noticeable bump in specs. If there is not, they would probably just call it something else. Could you call it Switch Lite? I don't know. I don't know what you could call it. That's the thing. I mean, Nintendo probably has a whole, whiteboard full of ideas that they've been kicking around in focus groups, but coming up with a name is going to be very difficult unless they just go the safe route and say, hey, it's the new Nintendo Switch. That would actually be kind of underwhelming, to be honest. I'd like to see them try something new with their naming scheme, because remember, the naming scheme will have to make sense going forward as well, because, I mean, they'll probably just use that as well in the family of Switch systems over the next, decade or two. Jim says if it ends up being a reality, they better have a tablet-only offer. I would hope that they would, only because most of us, I mean, think about it. If you wanted to upgrade, do you really need another set of Joy-Con controls? Do you really need another dock? Do you need another charger? Like, if they just had it as just the tablet, and it was still the same price as the standard Switch that you go in a store and buy, maybe it's through their website only because retailers could confuse people. If they offer it as an option, maybe there's an in-store model that has everything with it and it's $400, but then there's just the tablet version you can buy that still use the same dock, same charger, etc. Then you can get away with it and it being $300. Although if it's a more powerful Switch, you would assume that it might need a more, I guess a bigger brick, a charger that has more power to it, especially when it's running in dock mode. So that's the one part that's going to be a bit confusing there. But if they can get away with the same charger and they can bring in just a tablet you can buy by itself and it's actually more powerful, that would make a lot of sense, and honestly, it would help sell Switch systems even faster. Remember, they've done this already with the current unit, where you don't get a charger or anything. You just get the system and like Joy-Con controllers. So if they can get that done there, but they can upgrade it and just get the tablet, a lot of us would probably just spring for that. Wednesday, we saw a weird situation develop with Crash Team Racing for Switch being pulled from Amazon listings, and even the official website changing the Switch listing to coming soon. Also, it looks like the SNES and NES Classics are set to be discontinued after this holiday season. Starlink says, yeah, that drip feed of classic games on Nintendo's online service needs to increase to a raging river if that's going to be the only way to play these old games going forward. You're absolutely right, because there are people who are obviously giving them a pass because they say, well, I already have the games on my Super Nintendo Classic, or I have them on Nintendo Classic. I don't need these games. But what if you can't buy them anymore? What if you can't walk into a store and buy them? Well, one, the value is going to go up on them and people are going to try to, mark them up online, and that'll be a fun situation to deal with. But two, the only offering we get from them is that, 3 NES games a month? I feel like this being discontinued is kind of working in with the online service expanding to include Super Nintendo games, because if you're not going to sell a Super Nintendo Classic, I assume those games are being distributed online, and maybe you have 3 NES games and 3 Super Nintendo games a month being added in. That's 6 games. At that point, people are probably going to look at that and say, okay, that's better than what we were dealing with, but can we throw a Nintendo 64 or a GameCube game in there? A lot of people want GameCube, myself included. So that's kind of why I keep saying that. Even if they just sold GameCube games separately on the eShop or the Nintendo Switch Online shop, I'd buy Mario Sunshine for $20, right? I mean, I'd buy Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes for $20 easy right away. So I would like to see them do that, but I'm hoping the classics being discontinued, which is so weird in the first place because they're probably actually making money on them now with manufacturing costs dropping as they go along. I have to imagine they have another way to make money in the background, and honestly, they might be thinking you bolster that lineup with the online service, with new games, then you'll get more subscribers. Maybe they've looked at those subscription numbers and they've said, okay, yeah, we can make some serious money here if we just increase the value of it and get more people to sign up. Umbreon says, still struggling, waiting for Dragon Quest XI on Switch. That was like one of the first games announced for the Switch, by the way, the NX at the time. The game's awesome, by the way. I played all the way through on the PlayStation 4, like that game a lot. It's actually my RPG of the year, which I picked with Victor Lucas's show. It's my RPG of the year for this past year, 2018. And when it comes to the Switch, I'm going to buy it again. I'll probably play through it again because they'll probably have extra features added in because it's what Dragon Quest XI S edition or S or something. So I'll get it again. I'll play it again just to see what's changed or what's been added. But that's another case of this weird situation with third parties taking forever or having to back out on a day one release, or who knows. Hopefully we find out more information about that one in particular in 2019 because I think that game will get a second wind with Switch introduction on the Switch. But it's Crash Team Racing is just the latest example of something happening in the background and we can't really figure it out. Thursday we saw our first look at actual numbers for Smash sales with sales of over 1.2 million copies sold in Japan for its first 3 days. Capcom also announced that optional in-game ads would appear in Street Fighter V. Illustrator says, hey, if Capcom will give away the game and every DLC for free, I'll watch a commercial during the load screen. Who am I kidding? The day a company forces commercials onto gamers will be the day this company has sealed its ruin. Only mobile gamers are stupid enough to look commercials during their games and they get the game or stuff for free. So I've talked about this with EA and FIFA. While they sell a ton of copies, and really that might not even be a great example because they sold, 24 million copies and then tons of microtransactions. That game's already lost. That game's too far gone. I would even argue the NBA 2K is too far gone. They're going to keep charging and charging and charging for it. The moment that those sales really dip down, though, and affect microtransactions, I would be curious if they're keeping these loot boxes in, if they would ever consider giving the game away for free and make a ton of money on the microtransactions because you'd have an expanded audience with a massive user base of people who can just download the game. Something with Street Fighter that's been interesting is people have brought up the idea of what if they just put commercials in these games and you have to buy them? You just watch the commercial. Well, I think people might be okay with that if they're getting it for free. And then I guess there's like a premium option you pay for, actually buying the game. And then you don't have to watch ads. But we're getting to this point where these premium games from these bigger budget, AAA titles are really pulling a lot from free-to-play cell phone games, aren't they? They really, really are. Monetization strategies or just ways to access the game at a lower cost or even for free at times. It's very off-putting at times to see a premium-priced game get these things that mobile games use for free to, monetize outside of that initial upfront cost. So if they're gonna jump in like that with those kind of monetization strategies, I'd like to see them also adopt the idea of no upfront cost. Friday saw Todd McFarlane talk about Spawn possibly entering into Mortal Kombat 11 as a guest character. We also saw Digital Foundry check out Ark, giving us the lowest resolution in a game in a long time. Cell says, I wonder if Ark would have been better than the original version if they made Panic Button do it. So I have a strong feeling, there's heavy speculation for me, that might have been one of the games that Panic Button turned down. Do you remember how they've talked about how they've had to turn down offers because they get so many? I think, especially now with the way people view Panic Button, they're being very careful with the projects that they pick. I think they're specifically picking ones that appear very difficult. I mean, like Wolfenstein would have been pretty difficult, obviously, for most developers, but they got it done. I bet you Ark was offered to them and they said, no, that's just not going to run good on anything you put it on. Now you're going to try to put it on the Switch, and then we end up with, 170p or something. Lower than a Nintendo 64 game, lower than a Super Nintendo game in resolution. That's what we ended up with. So I don't think it would have been better with Panic Button. All right, maybe it would have been better, but I think we still would have had some obscenely low resolution most times, and I don't think it would have looked good at all. So I don't think Panic Button wanted their name anywhere near that, and I think they turned it down. But Panic Button will still, I think, try to challenge themselves, but they're being very smart about which ports they take. Warframe, I think, was a massive undertaking. It's a massive multiplayer online game that's always online and had a lot of features, a lot of graphical settings, but they made it work. And I have a feeling they turned out Ark and did that one instead. Howdy Peep says, Mortal Kombat 9 had Freddy, Mortal Kombat 10 had Jason, so naturally Mortal Kombat 11 must have Michael Myers. Ooh, that's a good one. That would actually work with the, obviously the theme of the game being, technically like a scary horror style game. That would be cool. Another one that I saw in the comments that I really liked was Doom Guy. That would be awesome. That'd be really neat to have Doom Guy kind of come in there and work out as a character. I'd buy Doom Guy day one right away as soon as that DLC is available. That'd be cool. Michael Myers, like I said, makes sense. I'm less interested in Michael Myers, but I know a lot of people would like to see that, and they already have that theme going from horror movies, obviously with Freddy and Jason. So Michael Myers would make sense. Doom Guy, though, I hope they get on that. Doom Guy and Spawn in Mortal Kombat would be killer. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for the Saturday show. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It does help out. If not, hit the dislike and leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's the renaming of the Switch for the Switch Revision / Pro. What would you call it? I'm curious. Who would you add into Mortal Kombat 11 as a guest character? Would you do Doom Guy or Spawn, or would you do, I guess, Michael Myers? Let me know about that one. And then, of course, these ads in full price games. Are you okay with it if it's free, or do you just not want it there at all and you just want to buy the game straight up, not to deal with any of this post-game monetization nonsense outside of DLC? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.